Heat is the topic for today. I went through this on my email. Obviously, as I'm kind of scanning the screen here, this isn't 100% applicable to everyone at this very moment, depending on where you go. I know Krista Dungy, she's in like the most western part of Canada, and she was like, "This is totally irrelevant because 50s is heat for us." And some of us are here now. Nicole Winger, I see Summer. Scanning the screen for anybody else in Texas who was basically already kind of cruising on. Yeah, there's Michelle. Cruising on the surface of the sun in terms of how terrible things are. And so just a general overview on the effects of heat. If you haven't read the email that I send out, then shame on you because I took a lot of time to write it. At least scan down to the bottom and scan down and read the chart that I attached in terms of the effect of dew point and humidity. The temps are going to increase, the humidity is going to increase, but the biggest factor that's going to determine how good or how poor your runs are going to be are the dew point and your willingness to just suck it up and understand that you need to fuel better, you need to carry fuel, and you need to learn to slow down. No matter how fit you are, your 7-minute mile, your 10-minute mile, your 11-minute mile in 35-degree temperature in February, where you're cruising. I had this conversation yesterday with an athlete, kind of talking why this time of year it's not frustrating as a coach, but I have the same conversation almost every single day, in that a lot of things happen right now that make you feel like you're taking a step back, that make you feel like you've been making all this progress through the whole entire first part of the year. We've been running a ton, we've been biking a ton, and we're feeling really good. And then obviously race season gets here, hopefully, for some of us, and we'd go out. Like I went out for a run yesterday, and on this route that I go around our ridge and go back up this huge incline, and about 3/4 of the way up, I walked. I could barely breathe. The humidity was like 94%. The dew point was 73. My heart rate went up to like 178. And I was like, if I want to keep this reined in like I'm supposed to, then I need to walk for a few seconds, get my heart rate down, and keep going. And when I got back and checked the weather, I was like, yep, no wonder I felt like I was trying to breathe out of, the exhaust pipe of an 84 Honda. That's how bad it is. And the other bad thing that not only does the dew point, the humidity, and the temp raise your rate of perceived exertion, but a lot of you, and some of you are still trying to do this, are trying to get away without carrying anything on your runs. I just don't like carrying water. I just don't like wearing a fuel bag. I just don't like carrying anything in my hand. Well, you know what? I don't either. But right now, you have to, or you're going to suffer big time. Not just is your run that day going to suffer, but your recovery is going to suffer. I read this on multiple Training Peaks accounts over the weekend that and I think some of you have already experienced this either this year or in the past, that if you go out and do a run and you feel like you underfueled or the temps were just excruciatingly hot, like oppressive hot, the next day you have that like really, really firm, like stale feeling in your legs that you could just tell that your body was under a tremendous amount of stress and dehydrated. So you go from cruising along and, over the winter and fall, whatever, cruising along with very cool temps, no humidity, no dew point. Many of you could probably go run without anything for like an hour, hour and a half. And now your perceived effort's going to go up because A, you're probably more fatigued. B, it's hotter, more humidity, higher dew point, and you're going to be carrying more fluid. Just carrying, I posted this in I think the closed Active Athlete Facebook group a few weeks ago, was I've done like a few like tests in terms of like my heart rate and my RPE going up when I'm just carrying a handheld and where I'm wearing a vest. And then I've even like tracked on loop runs that I do, like when you start out, and I know this seems minor, but when stress is already getting higher and heat is already increasing and it's tough, is that little things like starting the run when you're cruising up slow with a full water bottle, and then the last mile or two, it being totally empty, you feel like you're like running on clouds, right? So you have all those things right now working against you. A couple things you need to start taking, maybe even take notes on, or just re-listen to this, is that you have to start fueling before you go out. This is, to be honest with you, depending on where you live, if it's already creeping up in the 75s, 80s, in terms of the heat and humidity and the stress, you need to start taking your carbohydrate drink or your fuel drink of choice and drinking a bottle of it, a serving of it, before you go out on your run. 45 minutes before, out for it. You need to get ahead of it. You can't just wake up and to go out for your normal, fasted run with little to no water that you ate, at 6 o'clock last night, and then walk out in 92 percent humidity and a 70% dew point and expect not to suffer. You also need to start taking more fluids with you. That means not just getting by on water, but I would recommend doing two things. And this is really dependent on, most people are going to have to start getting fairly creative with their long runs or their somewhat harder runs, is that you're going to start needing to take two water bottles with you. You can set one down on the ground. You can take one out to refill. A couple reasons why. If you're not just taking water and you're taking some kind of an electrolyte drink, you also need something to help cool yourself. Some bottle or something to spray on your face, to spray down your neck, whatever it is. You obviously don't want to be splish splashing around and squirting scratch labs in your eye as you're doing your 20-minute tempo portion. That's not going to make anybody feel good. So you need to take two bottles with you, one to cool yourself or even just to alternate, but you need to have something available to cool yourself, especially if you run in an area as you're going to find, or you're about to find, that we've probably taken for granted shade, because like the amount of cooling you feel from just running in the shade right now, and it's going to happen in June, July, August, even early September for a lot of us, is tremendous. Pick routes where you can find some shade. Pick routes where, like, the best kind of routes you can do now is to do, if you're doing like a long run, is pick like some kind of a lollipop route, to where you can run the stick, a very short stick, and take multiple bottles with you and do one loop and then come back and refill that way. Because I don't want you to carry, 5 bottles with you for a 2-hour run. You're thinking, how am I going to carry all this nutrition with me for this entire run? Well, you can't, unless you want to wear 16 hydration vests or, camo, which you can do. And there's some benefit to that in terms of staying cool. I don't know that you want to carry 10 extra pounds of weight on if you don't have to, but that's something I do, is I carry bottles down all the way down our huge hill, because I don't plan on running back up it anyway. And I'll take 3 or 4 bottles down with me. I'll set them behind this big rock at the front, load up, and then I'll make 3 or 4 mile loops, depending on how much I know how fast I'm gonna eat it, and come back and get another one, refuel. So definitely you need to take I was cruising through. I'll come back to this in a minute. Yeah, washcloth is good to wipe off the sweat, keep it out of your eyes. I'm not a huge visor guy, but I'm rocking one right now because I need a little bit extra, heat evaporating out of my head. Definitely keep your face cool. I mean, sunglasses are great. I've always been just a straight sunglass guy, but there is a lot to be said for shading your face from the sun. So you're going to have to start being fairly creative with the routes you run. You can't just guess anymore. You can't just think, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my usual out and back, and then you run out of water 25 minutes beforehand, and now you're doing, what could be the hardest part of your run or the fastest part of your run on no water. And there's just no making up for that. You're going to be more sore. It's going to compromise the next few days. It's the same as doing a hard trainer ride and then choosing not to eat or drink for the next 6 hours. Like, you didn't negate the whole thing, but you kind of did, because instead of replenishing your body and your muscles and rehydrating and giving your body what it needs to repair itself, you basically let it starve and sit outside in the desert. So you have to start taking care of that. Let me scroll over to the questions.